there was no school 10 kilometers away from my village. So I used to go by foot to that school. 10 kilometers walk, alhamdulillah, did that. I was among only few people who studied from my village. The story started from there. So it was a tough time. It was basically like, but when you have a passion, you have big dreams, when you think big, when you have a passion of conquering the world, when you want to basically grow ahead. So that difficulty you start to enjoy. So story started from there. It was basically, I born in 86, and from onward, basically, alhamdulillah, completed my education, then moved to Lahore, studied there. There was always one thought in my mind from start days, that the life what I have, that is the life where I born, but that will not be my future, inshallah. So that was the thought from where I started my journey. I developed my IT solution company in Lahore in 2009. That was a entry point in entrepreneurship. Surprising thing was I did not done any job basically. So from start I was a risk taker. I took a lot of risk, especially starting business, find alternative ways. I already ran a school, then education is during then very full. But there was one missing element in my life. That was basically how to maintain that success, how to do in scalability. In 2013, I moved to Dubai. From there, basically, my entrepreneurship in the real estate sector started. There was one problem. We'll come on that. That was a problem I want to solve. That was related to real estate industry. 2016, I moved to United States on investor visa, alhamdulillah, and then the story starts from here. There were two very, very successful accelerators. One is Ocean Accelerator. They selected me, and I am the first Muslim entrepreneur. That is a purely accelerator run by basically Christians. They only focus on that. And alhamdulillah, I was the first Muslim who got selected by that. With that, not only that, alhamdulillah, now they open the doors. So this year they selected 2 Muslim entrepreneurs. So that was basically entry point in Ocean Accelerator. Then I went to Lisbon, Portugal. I got selected by Lisbon Challenge Accelerator, completed that. And finally, alhamdulillah, now the business is growing, scalable. We'll go through that. So basically, like how we'll move forward, how we'll discuss that. So this whole thing, one thing we all have to understand, entrepreneurship is struggle. Entrepreneurship is struggle. If a person cannot do hustle, a person who don't want to do struggle, my suggestion is he should do 9 to 5 job. If he cannot face all the time, he cannot enjoy the difficulties. So it's a sort of hiking. When you go on hiking, you know that you have to go on top of mountain. So the journey is not easy. You want to go on top, but do you really want? Do you enjoy that hiking, or you just basically sit in a corner and sit? Okay. So entrepreneurship is a sort of hiking. So start that and start to enjoy that. So every day you have a new challenge. Every day there is something new. Every day, like when you get up every day, new challenges are ahead. And you have to find a way how to avoid those challenges or how to overcome those challenges and grow your business. So that was about my life. Now, basically, Abdul Rahman, you can basically ask any other questions. So.
Yes, absolutely. Before that, I want to, introduce also our co-host, Sheikh Khalid Rahman, who's the Vice President of Muslim Entrepreneur Association. And he's going to say a few words, and then we'll take it from there. So, Sheikh.
Hey, thank you, Abdul. It's always exciting to be here and talking with successful entrepreneurs. Today is a special day. We have 2 of our guests from 2 different parts of the world, and basically both of them came from South Asian countries and have significant contribution into their entrepreneurship businesses. We have just learned from Brother Zamil, and he was sharing his story. Thank you, brother. And we will come back to you and we will ask you a question. We have a lot to learn from you. But I want to move to right now my brother Iqbal Bahar Bhai, who joined from Dhaka, Bangladesh, who is a great person. I personally know him, who built an enormous entrepreneurship mentorship platform in Bangladesh and all over the world. It's called To Be an Entrepreneur. They have trained 300,000 people over the last couple of years with their own funding and in the 64 district of Bangladesh. So I want to know from you, brother, that what is it? What is it that drives you? How did you do that? As far as I know, that it was all funded by you and a group of young individuals. So this is amazing, and we definitely want to do and build a bridge today. But we want to know that what is that you carry inside of your heart? Tell us your story.
Thank you, Galib, my friend, and thank you, and assalamu alaikum, Jamil Bhai, and also another gentleman as a fantastic host. Actually, once my life is actually Jamil Ahmed was telling that their struggle. Yeah, absolutely. My life here was a very bit of struggle, and I know what was the tough journey to be an entrepreneur, and what was the difficulties to be an entrepreneur. I know every moment, because no one told me do this and go ahead, and this is the path of the success. I just enter in a dark road. I don't know what will happen. I just left my multinational company job and then started my entrepreneurship journey in a dark road. And every time I just fall down and again step down, and running. So once I settled my business, my entrepreneurship journey, after doing 3 consecutive successful venture, I thought that I should do something for my nation. What I struggled, I should tell them the technique, how to do swim. They must go into the river by know how to do swim. So that's why I started my journey to the youth of Bangladesh from the different part of the country, from 64 district, through an online platform. I teach them 90 days course, 90 days online free course. There is no fees. This is my social contribution to the nation, to the youth. That's why I do it free. And I started 2.5 years back, 1st January 2018. And then I started with 64 district with only 164 people, youth people. Then I do the 90 days consecutive. This is really amazing. Consecutive 90 days. There is no holiday, no Friday, no Saturday, no government holiday, no Eid day, no festive. Every day we do.
Wow.
Because this is that I wanted to make them serious about the topic of the entrepreneurship journey. So I teach them every day. I took sessions online, and it is now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now 10 batches running. So far, I have trained 300,000 students throughout the country. So
Beautiful.
this is all about the training session. It is now 800, almost 900 days running continuously, no break. I don't know whether it will go into the Guinness Book of World or not, because every day I do it from my passion. So far, I have given them 6 skills, not only entrepreneurship. I have given 6 skills apart from entrepreneurship journey. That is leadership, that is presentation skills, that is basic ICT skills, that is emotional intelligence, that is basic English course, and that is accounting. So lot of skills I have also given them. They are more than 3,000 entrepreneurs are now doing they have started their entrepreneurship journey.
Beautiful.
They are now giving the job to to the other people. So this is all about, and till I am alive, I will continue to do it.
Amazing work. And this is who we are as MEA platform. This is who we're looking to do, to connect the entrepreneurs and platforms through all over the world. I'm going to go back to Abdul, because we started this last year with a big vision that Abdul might share, how we can globally expand, and we are expanding already. We are creating various different chapters into community colleges, and we're getting great response. And we also have plans toward all these people that you guys are training and producing as an entrepreneur. How can we come in and help them to kind of giving them a polish on what you've been training him and make him a final materials and take him to the venture capitalist who actually gives fund. So Abdul, do you want to share your thoughts on that and some of the MEA roadmaps?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as MEA, as we grow, our three pillars are mentorship, networking, and capital fundraising. Muslims funding other Muslim startups. With that, Jamil, he was able to actually take his startup and raise capital. So Jamil, a question for you. How can an entrepreneur create a successful business model? How did you go about creating one for VART?
So basically, to understand that model, we have to understand something. The story starts always from problem. Because there are many people, they always think about that, oh, I'll get this idea and that idea will be $1 billion company. That will be a unicorn. Firstly, we have to understand what is the difference between problem and idea. If we see all successful startups, I'm talking about Uber, I'm talking about Google, I'm talking about all major startups who made a success story or Lyft or anyone, they started with problem, not idea. So when problem exists in a society, firstly, as an entrepreneur, what you have to do, firstly, you have to find a problem. If you are able to find a problem basically a pain point. Mm-hmm. So people are suffering that pain point. You have to find that pain point. That pain point can be a small size. That pain point can be a big size. So, but there should be some pain in society. So if there is no pain, I'll be honest that there wouldn't be an idea. I'll give an example. Basically, if light bulb came, so there was a problem. The problem was there is no light. So at dark time, people either has to use kerosene oil or either they have to use something. So to find alternate way to remove that darkness. So then the light bulb came. So light bulb was an idea. So that idea basically that solved that real problem. Lyft, let's talk about Lyft. So the problem was the prices were so high regarding tax or something. So what happened? Lyft came with an idea that how we can bring these prices low. Amazon came with the same concept, how we can bring the products at the doorstep of people. So these all things are linked with problems. Okay, so firstly, entrepreneur have to work on problem. So whenever any entrepreneur come to me for mentorship, I always ask one question, man, what problem you are going to solve?
Right, absolutely.
Okay.
Perfect.
What is the problem basically? So this is the first point. Now, when they read on a problem, now the next level is they identify the problem. Problem is big. Problem is scalable. Problem is like how many people are suffering from that problem. That is next question. It's 1 million, it's 100 million, it's 1 billion, or it's multi-billion. So that is very important. That is a scalability that what is the size of that problem? So there is an opportunity scalability that I'll be able to run basically. So for VART, if I'll give one problem, VART has multiple products. One is real estate CRM. We have a property management system. We have an investment platform. So we solve different type of problems. So the problem, I'll give a practical example, basically one product of VART, so that will be more easy to understand. So the problem was people want to invest in real estate, but they don't have sufficient capital. Example, they don't have $100,000 or $200,000, so they can put it because real estate investment is safe investment. So they don't have that opportunity. What VART come here, they provided them a solution. So solution is so they can invest small amount of capital. That will be basically it's a not interest sort of model. It's an alternate sort of investment model. So people can invest in real estate. 10 brothers can join and they can buy one property, and then what rental income will come that will go to those all investors. Then there was another problem that was related to liquidation. So liquidation means no one brother wants to go out from that business or he'll do that. So here again the challenge come basically where provide a liquidation platform where they can resell their shares also. So the solution is just go back on the basically from where we started there was a problem and the solution is that product. So example, let's go back to Lyft or Uber model. So problem was people were looking for a sharing model and sharing economy. Uber or Lyft gave them a solution. The solution was so big, it was so scalable that it spread widely around the world. And the company became a unicorn. So solution is very important. So basically, no, here, why startup fails? I'll go on that topic also. Again, entrepreneurs comes, they found a fantastic problem and they build a solution which is not usable. Like they made an app, mobile app, and no one want to use that mobile app. It was so complicated, so tough. So people will immediately, so it's a 5-second model. 5 seconds. If you are able to test people, you're fantastic. They have only 5 minutes, 5 seconds, not 5 minutes, 5 seconds judgment. So in your 5 seconds, there is a call to action. You did something, you put your ask, you are done. So problem, solution, and next is basically monetization. Because while you are developing startup, like Iqbal Bhai is doing beautiful work. So now what is the monetization? What is the benefit of that? So example, the problem is, let's go back. The problem is sharing economy. Like people want, there is a population is growing. They want alternate sort of transportation. So Uber came. Now monetization is how they'll get the benefit. So for example, I'll go back again with the problem is the people want to invest in real estate, or people want to use a software where they can basically manage their business. So we gave the solution. Wait, give the solution. Now what we will charge for that? Like what Uber will charge a share from that? What Airbnb will charge a share from that? If there is no good monetization, man, startup is already failed.
Right.
It is not gonna work. It will go into a trash basically, because you cannot pay from your pocket. So your startup will fail. So that is basically monetization mean how much the pricing model. So one of my mentors, he gave me one beautiful advice on pricing. He said, man, ask a price when your customer says you are too costly. When your customer says too costly, that means that is the exact your price. Because I was doing interview for one of basically entrepreneur, and I asked, okay, what you are going to charge? He said, I'll charge $2. I said, why not $10? He said, okay, I'll do $10. I said, okay, why not $20? He said, okay, I'll charge $20. I said, man, are you confirmed basically what you are going to charge? So this is the biggest problem.
Very important point. Very important.
So at monetization, they need mentorship. They need proper research. So what they are going to do basically. So in Wait, we found the problem, we found a solution, and we worked a lot on monetization. So what exactly price we are going to charge. So that is basically again a role of Wait. For that reason, because when I went to investors, they asked first question, Jamil, what problem you are going to solve? Okay, I told them this is the problem. Then they asked next question, okay, beautiful. Then what is the solution? Why you are different from your competitors? I replied to them. The next part was, that was a really, really tough part. Okay, what money you are going to make in next 10 years? Here, basically, comes the business growth. So if your graphs are not showing that you are moving continuously up, then it's a services model. It's not a basically scalable, or it's not going to become a successful startup. So you are running IT solution company. So there's a difference between IT solution company, and there's a difference between a future unicorn company. In future unicorn, maybe first year, I'll give the example of Amazon. So in Amazon, what happened? Next 5 years, they did not went into profit. 5 years continuously, they did not went into profit. So investor asked from Jeff Bezos, man, what are you doing basically? He said, I'm working on future. If you cannot continue your journey with me, I don't need you. So this is very important for entrepreneurs, because our entrepreneurs make mistake. I made mistake 5 years, I'll be honest with that. So I made a lot that mistake. So whenever basically business growth, always focus on long term, not on short term. Because when we start immediately, basically like example in real estate, what mistake I made, I was developing a real estate software, and one customer came. At that time, I need a lot of money again, because when you are developing startup, money always looks good. So that was same my basically part. I said, okay, one customer came. He said, okay, Jamil, why not to basically sell me your basically product as a whole? So one time payment. Right. I'm going to pay you 50,000 dirham. Okay, that was a good money basically. Okay, 50,000 dirham. He said, I'll give you. Okay. I said, looks good. So I sold the product.
Right. So that's a big mistake that a lot of big entrepreneur does, right? They don't realize the value of that they're producing. So thank you, brother Zamil. You brought a very good point that every entrepreneur should solve a problem. Nowadays, like everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, it's kind of a cool thing, like, oh, let's be an entrepreneur. But how it really works in the real life, if you're able to solve the problem, if you can pinpoint a problem in the society and you discover the solution, that's the first thing that when you know that you should go ahead. And then all the points that you have discussed are very important. So with that, I'm going to go to Iqbal Bahar Bhai because he's been training in the rural area and he has trained 300,000 people. So he's interacting with them every day. He might know a lot of problems that he's facing with his folks, what could be an obstacle. And we'd like to discuss that. What can we do to get rid of that obstacle? What you see on the field, Iqbal Bhai?
Bangladesh is a land of opportunity because the main reason is two things. One is the population. We have around 18 million, 180 million people, and 65% are youth. So both are the very big strength in Bangladesh. Youth are very energetic and very enthusiastic and very innovative. Now we are in a pandemic situation due to COVID-19, you know, and we are just doing the so we are trying to have the solutions how we can resolve, how we can solve the COVID issues, all the issues. We cannot solve the COVID issues, but how we can help people to address the COVID issues to the nation. So we are trying to do something like e-commerce. Now Bangladesh, e-commerce is very popular because we were not that much used to in online business, online buying and selling. But due to COVID, we are bound to do this because we can't go out of the house and we can't go into the market. That's why online shopping is very popular nowadays. So there is a big opportunity of online business, e-commerce business in Bangladesh. Problem is Bangladesh is definitely fund is one of the problem, but we are now doing it. Say someone has idea, someone has great leadership, someone is tech guy doing very good in tech, someone is very good in sales and marketing, and someone has fund. So we are mitigating 5 people in one umbrella and doing the venture. But this is very small going. If we can give them fund and they can quickly turn into the business and they can start their, they can fulfill their dream. So this is the government is trying, Bangladesh government is also trying, ICT ministry is also doing, trying, but this is not enough because you know that in Bangladesh we now need, we have now 40 million unemployment. We need so many entrepreneurs in Bangladesh right now. That's why, and there are so many things to do because you know it's a huge market. If you want to eat them, if you want to wear them something, if you want to give them to use something, it's a huge market. So what I told is a land of opportunity. We need to train them first of all. We need to give them skills. That I'm doing, but this is not enough. We need more skills, more people to connect them in this connectivity, and we need to give them training. We need to give them venture fund. And idea is they have very brilliant ideas, homegrown ideas will be very applicable here because here the market scenario, and we can do business globally. We are doing, you know, that in garments and ICT business, we are doing business globally. So we can do it globally as well. So that's why I feel that if we can integrate together with so many venture capital, so that if we can go for few examples, say 5 to 10 ventures, and see show the examples, then other people attract and come into the field for their ideas.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. Bangladesh had the largest GDP raise last year, which is a pure sign of the economy is going up and more people coming toward entrepreneurship. And what you just said, like the last piece, the piece, right? The fund isn't big thing. And here, Brother Zamil is with us, can share some of his thoughts and idea, what he has done. Brother has raised a lot of fund last year, very recently. And Brother is also very connected with a lot of venture capitalists. That was another intention behind doing this event, that how could we connect folks who has brilliant ideas and back in Bangladesh and Pakistan to the venture capitalist. And I'm going to go back to Abdul after that, because Abdul also has a lot of connections. He's been working in H Fund for years, and he has his great mindset also. So let me first go to Brother Zamil. Brother, what do you suggest for these kids? What did you do? What did you suggest them when it comes of raising funds, and how to approach those venture capitalists?
This is the question which is asked all the time from me: how to go to venture capitals and what things venture capitals or investors look in a basically entrepreneur. As I mentioned earlier, one thing is a problem. If you are solving a real problem, and then there is a good solution, and then that solution is scalable, no, that's the attraction point. That is not confirmation that you'll get investment. That is attraction point. Now here, what venture capitals look, I'm saying serious venture capitals. I'm not saying basically the venture capital like occasional venture capitals. I'm saying basically what elements they look in you. There are 5 capitals. Always when I went to venture capital, they always look 5 capitals in me.
This is very important.
We always focus on finance. Finance basically, whenever we talk about that, we always talk about finance. How much 1 million I'm going to raise, 100 million, I'm going to raise 50 million, or like whatever, basically $1 billion. So that is not the case. As an entrepreneur, you have to keep 5 things in mind. If you have that 5 things, automatically basically, so you need 5 type of capitals as an entrepreneur. One thing, friends. Right now, do a calculation that how many friends you have. One of my mentors, he gave me beautiful advice, because in friends, we always consider our Facebook friends. Like I have 5,000 Facebook friends. No, that's not the case. The definition of friend is, okay, give them a call and ask $5,000 as a loan. Okay, now do the calculation.
Totally
how many friends you have? Okay, at the end you'll say only 1 or 2. So you have to develop a network of those people who can give you $5,000 as a loan immediately on your first call, without asking that why you need 5,000. Then second part is your family. Again, how many family members support your cause?
True.
You have a family members who don't want to basically continue with your cause, man, your entrepreneurship is already over. That is not going to happen basically. So that is another capital. Third thing, always start to learn new things. Never ever stop your education. If you are not reading 1 book in a week, things are wrong basically. So you have to focus on that. You have to keep some mind, make your mind free and work on that. Then where is your happiness level? So one example, like I'll give one example of basically WeWork CEO, $20 billion company, and crashed in 1 week.
Yeah.
Because in 1 week, $20 billion. And finally, they have to remove him. The board of directors have to remove him forcefully from his job. So he lost everything just in 1 week because he was not happy. Spirituality or happiness, whatever you want to say, that is important thing. And lastly, finance. So in finance, important thing is from where you can raise your finance. One thing, as I mentioned you, friends and family. When you go to venture capital, they'll ask first question, how much money has been invested by your friends and family?
That's the first question anyways, yeah.
If you have not raised from your friends and family, immediately a doubt comes in their mind. So go back again on the same point. You have a basically best problem, then you have best solution, and you have best growth. And venture capital is not going to invest in you. Why? Because you have not been trusted by your friends and family. So firstly, always entrepreneurs have to understand that friends and family is very important. Care about that. Then now you have to develop an angel investor. The next question will be how much investment has been made by angel investors. Angel investors can be your uncle. Angel investors can be your uncle friend, and any rich people who are basically United States that there are certain criteria we can discuss later. So that is the one way. So you have to raise capital. And Muslims basically Muslim entrepreneurs, I'll let them know this is the area where Muslims must have to focus, because there are a lot of Muslim rich guys. They don't know about basically entrepreneurship. So with Mia, inshallah, we'll work on that. We'll approach different basically high net worth guys who are not into venture capitals. So we'll go to them and guide them. If you're going to put money in startups, what will be the impact of that? So that here, all entrepreneurs have to basically focus on that. This part need to be done. And one of basically I made that.
So, brother, interestingly enough, we have our concept called Muslim Fund Muslim, which Abdul would like to talk about, I guess, after you finish. And this is where exactly our platform comes in the picture. How we can connect the entire Middle East, those wealthiest, richest Muslim men who supposed to fund under those startups and acceleration points. So amazing. Thanks for sharing that. Abdul, do you want to share your words on that? You have great plans, I know for sure, and how you like to, how you like MEA to work with them.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to take a step back and why MEA first was concepted. So I launched my first startup, FixMe, which is a construction management platform, back in college. It was my senior year of college. I found a problem. My father's in construction, and what I noticed was a lot of people there was an influx and saturated market of bad contractors, and a lot of the times people were just, even though they want to do capital investment into their house or home, they were just, disingenuated by how the industry is, and stories of contractors doing bad jobs. And so my whole thing was, that was the problem. How do we mitigate that risk? So when I launched my startup, and the beauty of it was, I'm Muslim. I was the founder and CEO. My partner was a Marine Corps veteran, 13-year Marine Corps veteran. So our story really clicked. We had a lot of support in our Queens community. And when I went out and, went to different venture capital, events in the city before the whole pandemic hit, there was one event in particular where there was a panelist who was a venture capitalist. He had his own firm. He was a very well-known lawyer before that in California, especially with intellectual property and trademark laws. He actually helped a few startups, when they were going IPO as well. So somebody asked him, why did you leave such a lucrative career, like a law career? It was very well known in the market, to then go off and branch off and, to become a venture capitalist. He said very simply, because when he was in the industry, a lot of the capital was giving to a certain demographic. It wasn't, so he was Hispanic, and he was like, Hispanics are not being funded, minorities are not being funded for their ideas. There was another person on the panel. He was the CEO of Handy. For those of you who don't know Handy, Handy was really the originator when it comes to getting somebody to come to your house and clean, and small mediocre jobs. So his story was, he raised $2 million in Boston with a broken app and a PowerPoint. And then people were like, if this guy can do it without any type of, actual apparatus, then why aren't other people getting funded? And that's where the Hispanic lawyer came in and said, I left in order to do something that adds value to the Hispanic community, because we have great ideas. And that's where it started clicking in my head. Well, us Muslims have great ideas. We have great, great startups as well and businesses. Why aren't we being funded? Why isn't there more Muslim venture capitalists out there that are solely funding Muslim startups? One good example that took place a few years ago was Careem. Careem was pretty much the Uber of South Asia and Dubai. It was founded by engineers in Dubai and Pakistan. Uber bought it for $1 billion. I spoke to somebody who's senior level at Careem, and I asked him, if you could go back, would you sell? He said no, but we didn't have that type of venture capitalists that were really funding us, that were going to take us to the next level. We had no choice. When you see that type of money on the table from Uber, they decided to sell. So that was the problem that, that MEA is trying to fix. get Muslim entrepreneurs or just Muslim professionals to think about, all right, what problem is out there? Whether you're a doctor, lawyer, so works in finance, accounting, you see the problems all day. It could be all types of problems, right? So how do you formulate a business plan? How do you formulate an idea? And most importantly, I think the reason why most often, also culturally, we tend not to be entrepreneurs is that we're like, okay, we'll be an entrepreneur, we'll get the startup. Who's going to fund us? Can anybody, I can name 5 VCs that solely fund in, you can say Jewish startups or, that type of community. I can't name that for Muslim entrepreneurs. So that's something that, we're trying to do to pretty much disrupt the market and have more venture capital financing go into Muslim-based startups all over the world. We tend to fund, masjids and, building mosques, which is great. But we also need to think about, hey, let's build our community too. Why can't Muslims have the next unicorn startup? We're hardworking. Our religion itself is all about discipline. And for an entrepreneur, having discipline is key. Without finding that discipline, they will not succeed. So our religion itself basically lays the foundation on how do you have a mindset of working hard and keep persevering. So that's, just in a nutshell that, why MEA is trying to pursue this route. Going back to Jamil, I want to ask you, when you went to go pitch to VCs, how many VCs did you pitch? What did you pitch them? And how did that go?
That was a crazy, basically, journey while I was going to VCs.
Yeah.
So, you have to be ready as an entrepreneur. The appointment is set, and the moment they'll see your face with this turban, with beard, they'll hang up the meeting. So that happened many times with me. I was approaching daily basis, I'm telling you, daily basis, 25 to 30 VCs. Daily basis. I was giving them calls. And that was and I was surprised, man, everything is good. I have everything, whatever I need. I have basically good accelerator programs. If you see my video on basically Ocean Demo Accelerator, everyone was literally there was so much response. In Lisbon Challenge, while I did the pitch, basically there was so much response. In Lisbon Challenge, they gave the voting also, so which is the best startup, and I won that voting. But the surprising thing was, while I was standing waiting for my VCs, no one appeared. So that was basically when you go through that sort of situation, at that level, you need basically passion. You should have a belief. Basically, it's going to VCs is like a marriage. So if you have a bad wife, what will happen? Where it will end? The married people can understand in a better way position that pain, basically. So Ghalib is basically pointing out, Ghalib, what's that?
I don't understand that. Neither Abdul does. Only 2 of you do. So, but I take the logic.
So Iqbal bhai can tell us in a better way.
No. Go ahead. I was putting some humor into it.
So when I went to VCs, basically, again, you can say that for Muslims, the ratio is 0.1%. 0.1%. So example, if you have to approach 1,000 VCs, then there is a chance that you'll able to make success story. And that same thing happened with me while I got commitments. I raised capital only from Muslim, basically, VCs. Muslim.
Brother, so this is my question, that how did you manage to collect all those venture capitalists who are possibly...
Here I can help you out, basically, if there's a good idea. Here the network plays a vital role. So if we have a strong network, because in VCs there is one term that is known as referral. So if you don't have a referral, they will listen. So you need a referral. So either entrepreneur, you have to find basically one person who can take you to that VC.
So that connection is very important.
Yep. So that is really important. So what you need the network. As I started earlier, basically friends. So you have to start to develop your friends. Friends doesn't mean basically with whom you can hang out. Friends mean that can be your business friends. So you should start to develop on daily basis. Sometime I get basically on LinkedIn, one person is sending me message, I'm looking for $1 million and this is basically my idea. Man, are you crazy? that is spamming. That is not basically pitching your idea. Firstly, I have to develop a relationship. So firstly, I did all that bad things. I'll be honest on that. I tried it, but that did not work. So later on, I found that I have to develop a relationship with VCs. By somehow I have to prove them. So they gave one statement later on, because I was trying to behave by that way, and I found that they said Jameel is proud what he is.
Right.
This is a term when VCs will understand he is proud. So as a Muslim, if you are going to happy a VC, there is a chance that they will not believe on you. But if you go with firm belief that I am proud that I am Muslim,
right.
Then
so that 1% when comes to the mentorship, that people do mistake, they don't know what to do. They just start looking and they develop bad habits. And I think that's where you, me, Abdul, and and Iqbal Bhai, that's where we come in, right? That's our goal, that we will pick those guys, mentor them, polish them up, and kind of put them through, put them in front of the venture capital. So that way they're not going to do the mistake that you did, right? That's what Abdul was talking about, that we are planning to do. So to do so, we do want to start. Yeah.
So we already developed the list of VCs who are interested in Muslim entrepreneurs. The good thing is we already did that research, and for sure we can, again, I'm open to share that list, but not for spamming, because if we'll openly share it, what will happen basically? So if any entrepreneur who's looking for that, he has to come to us, to Mia, and we'll understand, is he solving real problem? So then Mia will help him out to reach that VCs through our referral. Yeah. So then he can easily raise that capital.
Perfect. And this is why I, wanted to invite Iqbal Bahar Bhai, that the folks are back there. Seems like they already have 300,000 people, a platform already established. So I was thinking, and I was talking with Abdul, that how could we develop an ecosystem where we can suck those, the best idea holders to us, and then we give them attention, mentorship. You, Abdul, and all of our MEA members, we can actually help them to prepare that pitch deck and, develop a strategy and approach, and then put them in front of this venture capital. So Iqbal Bahar Bhai, do you want to share your idea? Is that even possible in Bangladesh, or with that context that, starting?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely it is possible. You know that in ICT ministry there are few funding projects are going on to help them, but their problem is they have no monetary system, or they don't have mentoring system to nurse them after providing the fund. Here we have to work that after providing the fund, definitely it has to be very problem solving idea to help the people to solve so many problems, so many people's problem. Definitely idea has to be very fantastic, but most of the very great idea could not work even after having fund, because of nursing or mentoring them after implementing the fund and so on. So here we need to work definitely, and what I am doing exactly that thing. After now I am bridging them with the who have friends, family, and angel investor. Till this I am working, friends, family, and angel investors. I am bridging them right now. This is the only way, but this is very slow and steady going. But if we get if we make a competition and do some pitch with ideas, and if we give them 2 more years for nursing them, to mentoring them how to use the fund, and how to, they are very good in ideas, but they may be poor in management, they may be poor in fund management, they may be poor in the management part. So that's why here we need to work and mentor them, and share them the idea, our skills to overcome these issues, so that they can they can run and they can continue their business. They cannot fail.
No, definitely. So now we have the platform, we have the network, we have the goodwill of mentoring him. Let's just take it offline and let's work toward building an ecosystem where we can produce more entrepreneurs from South Asian countries and connect them with, you know, venture capitalists in the USA. Abdul, I'm going to give back to Abdul. I think there are a few questions in the chat, or we can even open it up for whoever wants to ask questions.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Jamil and Brother Iqbal, for providing feedback and guidance to our members. So one of the questions that we have, and I can touch base on that, is friends and family don't always invest in our projects. Are you sure this is a requirement for VC? I'm going to say from my experience, yes. And there's different ways friends and family can actually donate to your startup. I'll give you an example. My first startup, as I mentioned, FixMe. What we did first was there's microfinancing, which is actually founded in Bangladesh by the Nobel Prize winner Muhammad Yunus. Microfinancing is really, community getting together and raising funds for other people. You heard of GoFundMe, Kickstarter, all those type of platforms. There's also one called Kiva. What Kiva does is that they provide an interest-free loan depending on how your startup is. I'll give you, and how much attraction it is. So I'll give you an example. We were raising $5,000 on Kiva. They were looking that, okay, 50% have to come from your friends and family. So they have to see that, there's interest in your startup. So we raised 50% within our friends and family, and then the other 50% was sponsored by their affiliate partnerships. The thing about this, you could say, investment is that it's up to the startup to pay back it every month until 3 years it's all paid off. So for example, if Sheikh has a startup and he's trying to raise $10,000, I'll go on Kiva and I'll give him $500. However, in 3 years, that $500 is going to be directly given back to me. Even it's in increments, you can actually withdraw it at any time. So that's another way that you can look at investing in different startups and stuff. With that, if anybody else has any questions, I'll open it up to that. One question I have specifically for Jamil is what does a successful pitch look like? Because pitching, I remember when I was pitching early on for my first startup, I had to pitch to everybody, and I really learned as I went on what is good about my pitch, how can I get better. So what is your opinion? When somebody pitches you a startup, what do you look for?
So always sometimes people tell you stories pitching because I gone through a lot of pitch competitions and I seen that people want to pitch something like they want to tell you story of Uncle Tom, Uncle Mike, and at the end you got confused what exactly the problem is basically. So in pitch always there should be three things. Not only while you are talking, while you are writing an email. So writing an email is also pitch. Basically you are pitching all the time. For an entrepreneur, like all day he's pitching. While he's talking,
True.
while he's basically going for interview, whatever he's doing, there are three things. One thing is a problem. Second thing is a solution. And third thing is ask. Problem, solution, ask. There is a one rule, KISS, K-I-S-S. Keep it simple, stupid. American use a lot.
Yep.
So if we have a KISS rule, clear in easy way what exactly problem is. So a common man who can understand that. Then solution, a common man who can understand that. And ask is what you need. If there are three things, you are done. And then you can add little bit in that is scalability. And finally, the excellence. So example, you need $5,000. Okay. That is, I'll just give one practical example as you mentioned. So 5,000, you need $5,000. Okay. First thing, why you need $5,000? You'll say that I need $5,000 to develop an MVP. Okay. Why you want to develop an MVP? Minimum viable product. So I want to develop MVP for solving a problem of contractors. How many contractors? There are 10,000 contractors right now. Okay, what will be the exit plan? There will be two type of exit plan. Either the business will grow, or either I will sell this company to someone else. So not 10,000, I'm able to, example, I'm able to take 1,000, and on that I'm charging $100. So immediately the calculation came in front of investor that yes, there is a possibility that this person will basically return me back my amount. Or I'll tell I'm going to give that 1,000 contractors to big company. So that ABC company will buy me in 1 million. So that is the exit strategy. So 5 things altogether. What is first? Problem. Second, solution. Third is basically how much solution is scalable. And finally, what is the monetization? And fifth is basically what is the exit plan. But he's investing with you. Can he take back or no? So that is the pitch, basically. Simple, nothing complicated, nothing confusing.
Yeah, absolutely. And also for those people that are confused on what venture capitalists also look for and how do they invest, VCs are broken down by a very simple metric. You could say it's called the third principle. 1/3 of the investments that venture capitalists make, they know that it was a gamble. It's probably not going anywhere. The other 1/3, the companies are teetering, so they need other people in the venture capitalists to be part of the boards to help them grow. They need mentorship, and they really need to take off. The last third is those startups that are generating and really taking off. VCs look for 3x. It's called the 3x rule. So if they're investing $1 million into your business, what they want and their general partners and limited partners want is 3 times that, so 3 million. That's the investment ratio that most venture capitalists look for. And remember, VC shops, they also have investors. They have general partners and limited partners that come into that module. So yeah, absolutely. One question I have for Brother Iqbal is that how's the landscape in Bangladesh right now? I mean, I think one of the points that you've made is that there's a huge, a big percentage of the population is millennials and young people. What problems or what industries are they currently building ideas for? Is it logistics, healthcare, or all around, just general?
Pardon?
Yes, sorry. I said in Bangladesh, what current industries are millennials building ideas and startups to help out with? I read an article that there was a startup in Bangladesh that raised capital for the logistics and trucking industry. They built an entire software. So what are the industries do you see in Bangladesh that are taking off?
Yeah, in e-commerce there is a huge opportunity. I can share one idea right now, that is delivery industries, because there are now about 1 lakh e-commerce company in F-commerce and e-commerce company. Right now they are struggling with delivery system. Truly online tracking delivery system is really is a big challenge now. It's a huge market right now, and you can Jamil also can think about it. There is a huge opportunity of doing a delivery company, online delivery, online tracking delivery company in Bangladesh, because e-commerce is growing faster and delivery company is not doing that much great, and it's a huge complaint in this pandemic situation. The big giant big company like Chaldal, like Daraj, they are struggling with the delivery because they have a very poor obstacles of deliveries. So I think, and most of them are doing in the cities like Dhaka, Chittagong, but in 64 districts throughout the country, there is a big opportunity of doing delivery circle, definitely. And health, I think there is a huge opportunity in agro and health because of population. There is very needed for food, organic food and everything. So many agro processing industries can come up here and to resolve the organic food, because here people are very scared of food uh, uh, problem because of the people are doing it mixing with other chemicals and everything. That's why the organic food is very popular to the common people of Bangladesh. So here is a big market. And health sector, you know that in Corona situation, COVID-19 situation, the health sector here is a big opportunity to invest. And because of we have no data, we have no historical data for a patient in Bangladesh. We have no historical data. So if we only work on it, it's a huge market. The hospitals are doing everything manually. No, every patient every time going to a separate doctor and telling the same story every time. So here the technology can comes up and uh, uh, doing so many
Yeah.
opportunities. Yeah, definitely.
I agree with you, Bahar Bhai, and I have already seen those companies are people are implementing IoT devices for agricultural improvement and gotten significant result. And also, I know some companies from my friends' owns, they started working on the cloud-based data collection for all kinds of health-related data. So it's growing. Technology is going there. Now we just need this, bill to be breached. So Abdul, I think we have another question.
Yeah, I can. So we have one question about how does the negotiation start in terms of how much you should invest in a startup? I guess when you're pitching to venture capital, and is there a book or resource on how to approach that? Well, there's a lot of resources and books, but for the first question, I think is like we all know Shark Tank. People are pitching and saying, "Hey, I want $10 million for 10%." They're evaluating the company, so they're evaluating it as 100 million. It's really about getting your financials right, getting your projections and your P&L. So when you go to a VC and you say, "Hey, I want $5 million for 5%," remember you're evaluating your company at 5 million times 95. So you have to be able to explain why do you see your company valued that much. Remember, all these are projection data that you're looking at where the company can be at a certain level years beyond that. So you really have to be very keen on your financials. In terms of books and resources that you can approach that, there's one particular book that I really enjoy and I read a lot, a few times a year. It's called 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel is what I call, he was part of the PayPal mafia. The PayPal mafia are people like Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, and others that left PayPal, and most of them launched very successful startups. Peter Thiel is a after he left PayPal, he's a venture capitalist, hedge fund manager, and he has different startups as well. So he talks about this idea of 0 to 1. It's basically all startups are zero. If you're not solving a very unique problem, that's where you want to grow. That's where the unicorns are. That's where Uber and all these other companies are. You want to get to that number one stage. So I would suggest, looking into that. Brother Jamil, I think that this question can also go for you. When you were pitching to venture capitalists, how did you show them your projections or what your company can be valued at a future date?
So this is basically here negotiation comes basically because while sometimes you have to say no from your side because venture capital want that you should be leased, and they showed you interest, beautiful. Generally Muslim entrepreneurs don't get that interest. That is general thing. So the story doesn't start. But fortunately, you are able to. You are among that 0.1%. Beautiful. You move forward. So when it comes on basically negotiation tables, here you should have very strong basically nerves. If your nerves are not strong enough, like sometime the deal is in front of you. Example, right now my company is $100 million company basically. So like while I'm doing meeting with my VCs, I always basically they come forward. Okay, I'm going to do the valuation at 25 million. I said, why? I don't need you. Many times I have to say no. So you should be very careful about your business. You should be very confident about your projections. You should be very careful about hockey statement. So this is very important. Basically understand that point. If you don't know about hockey statement, like your business is not gonna work. Hockey statement is basically, if you are bringing financing in your business, what will be the outcome? Are you going to change your car from basically BMW, or you need capital for the hockey statement? Or you want to get, you are getting $200,000 salary per year and now you want to get 1 million, or you need that capital for your business growth. So that will give you the projection, what financing you are bringing in your business, how you can go by that way. And by analytics, you can show that now you are on top side. If you are weak on that, no, basically maybe if even you are $50 million, he'll do at maybe 10 million or 8 million, and they wait for a moment when you'll be over. So many people come always with the question also, like, when I have to raise. You are running a successful business. There is already scalability. There is always, keep in mind, 6 months. If you have 6 month capital in your hand, you are safe. Otherwise, VCs will ruin you. They'll take everything from you. And at the end, basically, you'll be empty-handed and enjoying, and they'll take handover of your company. And like WeWork is an example, basically, or there are many other exits, basically. So when you hear exit, there are two types of exit. One is the exit of CEO or founder. So you already given your company to them based on their terms. Or there is an exit of basically you are getting money. So these are two types. So what I suggest to everyone, be careful about your analytics. If you don't know what you are going to do with this capital, then it's useless.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And I think we have another question, pivoting on that, going about analytics. If they don't know the exact monetization value or expected trend, then how do they build projections or establish a business case? Just to give a little feedback on that, a lot of times, you don't know the exact monetization. When you're building a startup, you have to build a team. There would be no Apple with, Steve Jobs would not be able to create Apple if it wasn't for Steve Woskowitz and the other people that was on his team. So if you don't know how to create the exact monetization, bring somebody that's very good at research analytics and finance. They'll be able to create some type of models using whatever data that's out there. And there's a lot. There's a lot of data now that's out there. This is not back in the 1990s or even early 2000s. So they'll be able to create some type of trend and show. It doesn't have to be exactly congruent to the business model, but it can be close. For example, if your business model has different steps in terms of supply chain, right? And you have that supply chain data, show how your startup can also, because of the supply chain manufacturers that are going and, generally upward curve, how that can add value to your startup and bring more revenue. So it's really looking at, different data sets, what's out there, doing a ton of research, a ton of market analytics, and being able to put that together. And that can be done if you're not good at putting those models together. I would suggest finding a good, finance person. We have a lot in our MEA community. So.
That is beautiful. So basically here for that, go back again, network plays a vital role. So if you don't have, try to develop a network. Never see that I am running successful business and I don't need network. It's mean basically you are gonna fail in next 1 year or 2 years. So you need always network, and network help you out in that.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So I want to take this opportunity to tell everyone, all the MEA family members here, that the next month, actually this month, right? We are going to have an 2 days long MEA conference invited by Brother Zamil's property in Pennsylvania, which will give more details out. And Abdul, do you wanna share really quick, like how exciting this 2 days will be to get together with all entrepreneurs?
Absolutely. So we're planning a trip to Pennsylvania, courtesy of our Jamil, who's also on the business advisory board at MEA. So basically what we want to do is curate and create an environment of all different types of Muslim professionals and, give them the space where we're going to have different workshops, anything from, how to trade into stocks, create pitch decks, create business model, how to actually do the finance and analytics. So it's going to be a 2-day experience in Pennsylvania, remote from Corona and all those worries. And it's really about a bonding experience. We're looking to get our members to really bond and, create different startups and grow together. So it's a great opportunity. I'm going to, we'll be sending the material out, and for people that are interested, space is limited. So it's not a first come by first serve, but, you know, people would have to select, sorry, we would select the people that would, you know, be joining us. And yeah, and what I want to finish off with this is a question for both Jamil and Iqbal. In the next 5 years, where do you think Muslim entrepreneurs should be doing, and where do you think the growth is?
Iqbal, but you can explain better, and I'll later explain that. So
You're on mute.
From my personal point of view, I'm growing like the way I'm growing now. I will do more investment on startup, so many startup in future, definitely in my personal venture. And apart from that, from Nation, what I'm doing, I have a target to create 10,000 entrepreneurs who will provide 1 lakh job in the market. This is by next 1 year, my target. And my next 5 years targets, I will build a entrepreneurship academy in Bangladesh. It is online and offline both. And I will create 1 lakh entrepreneurs, and maybe 50 lakh job will be created from that.
So, Iqbal, what do you expect from MEA? Where do you see us in next 5 years doing as our platform?
Yeah, definitely. We basically what is needed, that will be fixed by the time, by the interaction, by the friendship, by the networking, everything. But we need a collaboration first. This is very important. If we can collaborate, the things will becomes on your table, and if you feel this is interesting, you will go. Mr. Jamil every time told that we need a solution. We need a problem and we need a solution. If the solution is expected, is interesting, and it's smiling, then it will jump. So my expectation to this collaboration is we can work together, we can find so many issues, we can make so many stories, and that will create another world in our world, definitely.
Definitely.
So my expectation is to collaborate and work together.
We're definitely coming up with some collaboration plan with your platform and MEA and Brother Zamil and all other MEA members. So going back to the Brother Zamil, do you also want to share your thoughts? That what do you see?
So basically, one thing we have to understand as Muslims, this is world is changing. World is changing. If we cannot make now, forget about it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has basically closed the whole world. Like when there are tough times, at that time, basically generations make their future. In tough time, there are two types of people. One type of people are those who are struggling. They make their success stories. And the other type of people who go in fear, they cannot do anything. So these next 5 years, that is changing the whole world order. Things are changing. And this is the best opportunity for Muslim entrepreneurs all around world, inshallah. And MEA basically, MEA, that will play a vital role, inshallah, in that. So we are inviting basically all around world entrepreneurs, be part of Muslim Entrepreneurship Association. The benefit of that will be like we are supporting each other. We are joining hands. If there are hands are not joined, all nations are agreed. I always basically share one joke basically. So in hell, there were different wells. So one person on every well there was one person there was one guard with one basically stick, and then one well came and there was no one. And a person asked who was visiting the hell. He said, "Why there is no guard here?" He said, "They don't need guard because they are more than enough by themselves. So if anyone start to come up, they pull him by leg. So that person go down." So what we Muslims have to do, we have to come out from that situation. There should be a thought that we have to give back to society. We should love our Muslim brothers. We should, it's not Bangladesh, it's not Pakistan, it's not basically India, it's not Malaysia. We are one nation. Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has joined us one nation.
Fantastic.
We have that thoughts, inshallah, by the grace of, I'm seeing light. I'm saying future is great.
Awesome.
So like time is our inshallah.
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank our members and everybody who's attended this event. I want to give a big thanks to Brother Jamil and Iqbal for participating and giving great advice and feedback to our audience. As mentioned, our goal has always been and always will be to create a global platform of Muslim entrepreneurs and professionals. We have a lot of things that we're working on that we'll be releasing, more webinars. If anybody wants to get involved, we're opening up different chapters at universities, and we want to keep growing. And this is your platform, everybody's platform, not only one person's. So thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your Sunday, and stay tuned because the next Muslim unicorn startup is coming soon.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you, Abdul. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jamal Bhai and Iqbal Bhai.